Hello everyone. In this video I want to talk about this idea of people complaining to you. I'm talking about people who have a legitimate complaint. When someone comes to you and they have a legitimate complaint about an individual or an organization, like say a church, these folks do need the freedom and they need the avenue to be able to voice their concerns. Parents, for example, they must know how to hear the complaints and concerns, the struggles of their children. And churches also need to be open to feedback. If either one of those are not, the parent is not open to feedback and the church is not open to feedback, or another authoritarian organization, well, bad things can happen. And so in this video, I'm talking about the fallout of shutting folks down and not giving them the freedom and the avenue to be able to communicate the concerns that are on their hearts. Hello everyone, Rick Thomas here. We're helping people live effective lives. I just finished a report from one of our mastermind students. Our mastermind program is our all-online counseling training program. I do these reports all the time. And in this particular report, our student was talking about people who complain and critique, but they were saying it from a positive perspective, that they do have legitimate concerns, but yet they can feel quashed. They can feel shut down, and they don't have the freedom and the avenue to be able to communicate whatever it is that's on their heart. And so if you are an authoritarian, an authority person, whether you are a parent, a business owner, a church leader, or some other ministry leader, what you don't want to do is to quash critique. I'm using the word critique here in a very positive light. Because if you shut folks down and don't allow them to share what is going on inside their hearts, well, they're going to do one or two things. They're either going to react adversely to the authority because they are not permitted to communicate, or because of the burden that they are experiencing, the suppression of not being allowed to communicate, they may seek to find relief or escape from being suppressed so much. Let's talk about this idea of escape. Let's say that a child cannot talk to their parents. They live in an authoritarian home, but yet the parents are not open to this kind of communicative, grace-filled feedback where they want to hear constructive criticism and they want to hear what's going on in the lives of their children. Well, if children aren't permitted to do that and they're just, we don't want you to be heard. You can be here, but we don't want you to be heard. Well, that suppression has an adverse effect in the children's lives. And what many of them do, they will look for escape. I mean, they are suffering and they want to feel better, and so they find escapes in order to feel better about themselves or about what is going on. Now, they may not connect the dots and realize that they are escaping from suppression. They are escaping from a lack of communication. They are escaping from an environment that is not grace-filled. But when the burdens are so heavy on any of us, on me, on you, I mean, the instinct is for us to find relief. And if the suppression is so heavy, after a while our souls can succumb to the weight of not being able to communicate things that are legitimately on our hearts, and we'll go for an escape. Well, the solution for this is to create a context where folks can complain, grumble, critique, or give constructive feedback. It can be healthy. And I use all of those synonyms because I want you to expand your thinking about this. I know complaining and grumbling, it can be sinful, and in most cases maybe it is, but counselors know this all too well. When people come to them and they have been in suppressive or difficult relationships, they do come and they complain and grumble, but I don't shut them down. I never have, because I know what's going on here and I'm playing the long game with them. Oh, I could shut them down and say, you're sinning because you are grumbling. Well, guess what? They will just go to the next person because they need to communicate. And so I use the words here that you need to create a context where folks can complain, where they can grumble, where they can critique, and they can give constructive feedback. Now, one of those is good. 3 of them might not be that great, complaining, grumbling, critiquing, but constructive feedback is. But you want to allow people to do all of that. You're not going to shut them down immediately because they have things on their hearts and they might not be mature enough to be able to share those things in a Christ-like way. And so you want to give them comprehensive care, and sometimes you have to overlook offenses with people because you really want to hear their hearts. And so it's not so much about how they are saying or what they are saying, but you're giving them that space to be able to communicate. And then ultimately, Lord willing, you would be able to help them so that they are less complaining and less grumbly, and their feedback is always constructive and not sinful. And so the solution is to create that context where folks can share what is on their hearts. And so one of the things that people will do is they will escape because they are under the pressure of not being able to communicate either with their parents or with the other authority structures. And then the other thing, in addition to escape, some people can react. This is the other way that people respond to the suppression or the inability to be able to communicate. Again, the more you try to suppress folks from voicing their opinions, the more they are tempted to react sinfully against you. These people are not escaping from it. They are retaliating to the suppression or the quashing of the environment of not allowing them to be able to communicate freely. In fact, you will see this in many churches where the communication is not free-flowing. And if the leaders do not create that healthy feedback loop with the congregation, the people will talk. They will vent. If you try to press them here and not allow them to communicate about things that are on their hearts, they're going to vent. They're going to retaliate out here, and that's not what you want. Quashing people from communicating legitimate concerns that are on their hearts only makes things worse. There is something in them that motivates them to have to say something about what they perceive. And whether their perceptions are true or false is not the most important thing at this point. The most important thing is that you have an environment where people can talk. Sadly, because of the quashing of communication, many of those who do talk are gossiping. I mean, it is sin. They are venting and gossiping and complaining. And I'm not blaming their sin of gossip on the leadership who is quashing, but I am saying that if you do suppress people and don't have that healthy feedback loop, you will complicate the problem, and that's not what you want to do. And then you have the complainers, the folks who feel this compelling inside of them to say something. If you're like that, if you're in an environment, if you're a child, for example, and you don't have the ability or you don't feel the freedom to be able to communicate to your parents, or you're in a local church or some other authoritarian structure where you don't feel the ability to be able to communicate freely to those who are in authority, I just appeal to you to ask the Lord to give you enough self-awareness to know how to talk to other people. There is a way of communicating, and it doesn't have to be gossip. Now, most Christians, in my experience, they just do not have the kind of maturity to be able to, or to know how to communicate well. They talk, and either they are gossiping and grumbling, or on the other side of this is the receptacle of the person who is gossiping and grumbling. And so you have the people who are speaking in a sinful way, and then you have Now let's say it's you that is listening to this person. I call you the receptacle. Many Christian counselors are like this. When someone is spilling all over you, you have to know how to steer the conversation from gossip without shutting down the complainer. I was talking about this earlier. You really have to have the grace of God in you to know how to overlook an offense. There is probably some legitimacy in their complaint, and so you do want to hear them out without confronting them, so that otherwise they will just merely go elsewhere and they will share their grievances. And so there's a lot that's been communicated here in this video about communication. You don't want to be suppressive. You want to have a free-flowing feedback loop, especially if you are the authority structure. Also, if you're the one with the complaint, you really need to have the self-awareness and the wisdom to know how to communicate your grievances in a Christ-centered way. And then if you are the receptacle of people who are complaining, you need to know how to steer that conversation. And so I have put in the description of this video some of our articles on communication. And so if you want to do a deeper study on communication, you're welcome to do that. Also, if you want to talk to us, we have a free community forum on our website, rickthomas.net. I would love for you to go out there. It is provided to you freely, no catch whatsoever. We have a supporting community who they appreciate what we do and they want to support us, and they do on a monthly and yearly basis. And because of their generosity, we're able to provide all of these resources to you freely. And so I want you to come and talk to us if we can serve you in this area of communication, or if there's something else that you would like to discuss. And finally, if you would subscribe to our YouTube channel, that would be great, because it will allow us to reach more people with the practical message of Jesus Christ. Thank you so much for watching the video.